Hey guys, PIEGUYRULZ here, and I think it's finally time for me to talk about Gravity Falls. It's a mystery-oriented comedy show about twins Dipper and Mabel Pines visiting their great-uncle at his tourist attraction known as the Mystery Shack. The shack is located in the titular Gravity Falls, and there seems to be a lot of weird things going on with the town. One day, Dipper finds a book that catalogs all of these anomalies and sets out to discover who wrote it and what the true deal is with this strange town. In this review, I'm not going to spoil anything outside of the very basics of the show. It's another show that really benefits from the viewer just going along for the ride without any additional information. There will be more Gravity Falls videos if you guys like this one, and those ones will go into detail and be very spoilery. Oh, and this comment section will probably contain a lot of spoilers too. I'd suggest avoiding it if you haven't seen the show yet. So let's start with the characters. First, there's Dipper. He's the one that finds the journal, and he's the one obsessed with finding out what is going on in Gravity Falls. He's a little uptight, he's slightly neurotic, and he tries to act older than he actually is. But at heart, he's still a kid and does like to have fun every now and then. I personally identify with Dipper the most because no matter what happens, Dipper is dedicated to finding out what is going on. He's a seeker of the truth, and if I was in his shoes, I would be doing the exact same things he does. He also has a habit of overthinking things, which is not dissimilar to me. His twin sister is Mabel. She's a big goofball who knits her own sweaters, even though it's the summertime. Her goal is to get a boyfriend before the summer's over, which sometimes clashes with Dipper's goal of trying to learn about the mysteries of Gravity Falls. Despite what it might seem like, she isn't stupid, just eccentric, and considering she's a kid, it's not really that unusual. And much like how Dipper knows when to act like a kid sometimes, Mabel also knows how to act seriously as the situation demands. Then there's Grunkle Stan. Grunkle stands for Great Uncle, if you're wondering. He's a grizzly old grump that runs the Mystery Shack. He's also a con man who does quite a few shady things for cash. Though deep down he loves the twins, he happens to be a little bit hard on Dipper, and he has trouble expressing his feelings. His origins are mysterious. Though he doesn't get his own place in the theme song, the other major character is Seuss. He's a cool dude who works as a handyman at the shack. His age is a bit ambiguous, but he seems to be in his early to mid-20s. Though he lacks foresight and more than a little bit of common sense, much like with Mabel, I wouldn't call him a stupid character. He's just different. And although yes, he can do stupid things, he can also be clever in his own way. What makes Seuss a great character is that despite his tendency to screw up, he has a good heart and a good nature. He is rarely ever malicious on this show. Even when he's the antagonist, he does things because he thinks they are the right thing to do. He's a very noble character, and although I relate to Dipper more, Seuss is definitely my favorite character. It also helps that he gets some of the best jokes on the show. Side characters include teenaged Wendy and her friends, crazy old man McGucket, the local hillbilly who's simultaneously a genius, Lil Gideon, the performing psychic and Stan's rival, two incompetent cops, Mabel's dorky friends, and the town's snotty rich family, as well as a whole slew of other humans and creatures. At its heart, the show is about mystery and mythical creatures. Most episodes are about Dipper coming across some supernatural creature or object, and the creatures on this show, while based on traditional myth and science fiction mythos, usually have an interesting twist or comedic slant to them, which makes them interesting and different from the stuff we've seen a million times before. And similarly to Steven Universe, as well as the other great animated fantasy shows out there, Gravity Falls mixes in a bit of emotion and down-to-earth issues with the fantasy elements. A few episodes go to some pretty real places. Both season 2 episodes about Seuss in particular deal with some pretty tough stuff, having a deadbeat parent and trying to find love when you're different. They handle both issues with all the weight and tact they deserve, portraying them realistically while also including a supernatural angle that comes in at just the right points to keep the episodes interesting, but never actually getting in the way of the more realistic parts of the episode. The writing on this show is very tight. Each episode is 22 minutes long and not a second is wasted. Because there is a great focus on mystery and conspiracy, there are many interesting twists and turns in each story, and most of them are pretty hard to see coming, yet make total sense in hindsight, which is exactly what makes a great mystery. At the time of making this review, the first big story arc of the show, finding the author, has come to a close, so I can honestly say the show can absolutely deliver a satisfying conclusion to the things it sets up. That's always a risk when watching mystery shows like this. Anyone, and I mean anyone, can set up a good mystery. You can throw random crazy elements in that'll draw people and make them excited to know the conclusion, but it takes good writers to make it all come together in the end. In the hands of bad writers, the conclusion to mysteries could be completely out of nowhere or a total letdown and completely predictable. Fortunately, Gravity Falls doesn't fall into those traps. It has great writers, and the creator, Alex Hirsch, clearly knows what he's doing and has a crazy awesome plan for the show. In the comedy department, almost every single joke knocks it out of the park, and the jokes are very frequent, making this a seriously funny show. It's amazing how they slip in really clever jokes while also setting up the plot, and some of the funniest parts are the adult jokes. There's nothing in here that I would think is inappropriate for kids or anything. I'm sure it'll just go right over their heads, but there are definitely some things that Grunkle Stan says that will be very funny if you're an adult, especially coming from a Disney show. I have to talk about how simply beautiful this show is visually. It might just be the best looking televised cartoon ever. Obviously it's in HD, but it makes really great use of it. The backgrounds have so much detail, it's crazy. And every time we see the inside of the journal, it looks so highly detailed. Like even if Dipper is holding it, even if it's far away from the camera, you can still see details of the pages he's looking at and even read some of the words. That's the level of detail they put into this show. And it works so perfectly for a mystery show like this, where they're always hiding little details here and there. The fact that the backgrounds and everything are so intricately detailed means they can hide things a lot easier than if everything was so plain Jane that whatever was unusual stuck out like a sore thumb. The show also has notably few animation mistakes. There really isn't much wrong with this show at all. There's YouTube videos that catalog the few that are there, and they are very short videos, and the mistakes they make are so minor. The animation is very consistent and very top-notch. It has that Disney magic that has unfortunately been in short supply lately, in terms of Disney's 2D animation department not really doing much these days. If there is one big thing I do not like about this show, it's the cops. I am so sick of the super incompetent, bumbling police force. From the cops on The Simpsons to the banana guards on Adventure Time, I think it's all very played out. Every time these two cops appear, they get distracted by every little thing and have their own little conversations with each other like they're a married couple or something. Personally, I don't find them one bit funny, and I think that the show is well written enough that they shouldn't be leaning on idiot cop tropes. And yes, I get that the cops are written like this so the characters could go on adventures that in real life they wouldn't actually be able to go on, but still, Gravity Falls is well written. It does not need that. Either don't include the cops at all, or make them strange in a different way. They don't appear that often, but there's at least one episode where they're the main antagonists, and I just have to roll my eyes every time they appear on screen. I'm sure they have their fans, but personally, I really don't like them. Another criticism I have of this show, and this isn't really a big deal, but it still bothers me, is its over-reliance on a certain voice actor by the name of Kevin Michael Richardson. Now, don't get me wrong, this guy is amazing. He has a wonderful, booming, deep voice that is very distinct and very menacing. He is a great voice actor, but the guy voices a lot of the minor and one-off characters, and it just distracts me every time he appears because it's very, very clear when it's him. From playing a ghost, to the time baby, to one of the cops, to the bouncer, to a rapper, to a hip-hop wizard, to Big Henry, he plays a lot of them. And it doesn't help that he's been on a ton of other shows too. I really can't stop thinking of him as Skulker from Danny Phantom. I'm glad the guy is getting a lot of work, but I really wish they would use him less on the show. He did a great job as the ghost in an episode when he got to really play the main villain, but having him in all these additional roles just devalues how special and unique his voice is. And that's really all I have about negative things to say about the series as a whole. Yeah, there's problems with a few episodes, and I'll probably get to that at some point, but overall, it's a really fantastic show. Even from the first episode. Seriously, outside of the fact that Dipper narrates the first episode, it still feels like a part of the rest of the show. It doesn't feel like any sort of pilot or test or rough draft or them first getting used to the show at all. It feels like they've been making the show for a while by the time they got to the first episode. Now, I do still think that the first few episodes are not quite as good as the show goes on to be, but that's only because the show goes on to be a really top-notch, amazing, fantastic show, and they had to start somewhere. What I'm saying is the first few episodes are good, but it only gets better. And 2 of the latest episodes, A Tale of Two Stans and Not What He Seems, are just fantastically, mind-blowingly, amazingly, spectacularly, unbelievably good episodes of television. I very highly recommend this show. Unfortunately, Disney has made it really annoying to watch it. They first kicked it from their main network to Disney XD, which not all cable packages have, and on top of that, they are very slowly releasing the show on DVD in groups of a few episodes at a time with few special features. If you want to watch the show right away in its full HD glory, I really suggest buying it on iTunes or Amazon Instant Video. But please, whatever you do, however you watch it, don't skip this show. It is a very fulfilling experience to watch. Also, and now I'm gonna leave you with a slightly paraphrased Alex Hirsch quote from San Diego Comic-Con 2015. When asked about making a kids show, he replied that as long as the plot points are there, it doesn't matter what texture you drape on it age-wise. If it's a compelling story, people will watch. There's this misconception in the media that kids will watch anything. Kids will watch anything just like a hungry person will eat anything. But kids will love and sing the praises of something that you make good. Just because people consume doesn't mean they wouldn't prefer something amazing. I can't say I disagree with the guy. Alexes are smart creatures. PIEGUYRULZ, out.